Are you still up? I thought I was the last one. It's one of those nights for me, when sleep just eludes me. If you don't feel like going to bed either, why don't you join me on the window seat? We can talk for a while. One insomniac to another. I have tea, by the way. Green tea with mint, if you want some. Here, let me pour you a cup. It's quite good, and it won't keep you up. I'm just sitting here, listening to the rain, and reading this book that someone left on the windowsill. It's called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Apparently it's a list of names for feelings or atmospheres that haven't been named or properly described before. I recognize a lot of them. It's a fascinating read. I can give you a few examples, so you see what I mean. Here's one. Opia. The ambiguous intensity of looking someone in the eye, which can feel simultaneously invasive and vulnerable. Let me find a few more. Monachopsis, the subtle but persistent feeling of being out of place. Enouement, the bittersweet feeling of having arrived in the future and seeing how things turned out, but being unable to tell your past self. Vellichor, the strange wistfulness of used bookstores. Kenopsia, the airy, forlorn atmosphere of a place that's usually bustling with people, but is now abandoned and quiet. A lot of us got to feel that a while back, didn't we? Jouksa, a hypothetical conversation that you compulsively play out in your mind. Oh, this is a good one. Chrysalism, the amniotic tranquility of being indoors during a thunderstorm. Well, there's no thunder at the moment, but I would still claim that I feel a bit of chrysalism right now. Vemodalen. I have no idea how to pronounce any of these, by the way. Vemodalen is the frustration of photographing something amazing when thousands of identical photos already exist. Anecdoche, a conversation in which everyone is talking and nobody is listening. Ellipsism, a sadness that you'll never know how history will turn out. Lachesism, the desire to be struck by disaster, to survive a plane crash or lose everything in a fire. It sounds horrible, but I think I understand. To be torn loose from everything binding you to your life. To start anew, from scratch, unbound. Exulansis, to give up trying to explain an experience because people are unable to relate to it. Sounds like it can happen a lot with generational gaps, different cultures, or just something very personal. Adrotitis, frustration with how long it takes to get to know someone. I think I might have made other people feel adrotitis. I don't open up all that easily. Rukkehrunruhe. I have no idea how to pronounce this one either. It might be based on German, I think. Anyway, it's the feeling of returning home after an immersive trip, only to find it fading rapidly from your awareness. I see why it's called the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Many of these are about sadness or loss, but also melancholy and beauty. A dictionary for sensitive souls. Nodus Tollens. The realization that the plot of your life doesn't make any sense to you anymore. Onism. The frustration of being stuck in just one body that inhabits just one place at a time. I think the cure for this one might be to read more books. Liberosis. The desire to care less about things. That gets easier with age, I think. Trumspringa. The longing to wander off your career path in search of a simple life. Like tending a small farm in the forest, or living in a lighthouse. Occhiolism. The awareness of how limited your senses are. Looseleft. Feeling a sense of loss upon finishing a good book. Sensing the weight of the back cover, locking away the lives of characters you've gotten to know so well. I'm only reading the most basic definitions. Most of these have longer descriptions too. Some are quite long, actually. I could read you a few in full. Okay. Slipfast. Longing to disappear completely, to melt into a crowd and become invisible, so you can take in the world without having to take part in it, free to wander through conversations without ever leaving footprints, free to dive into things without worrying about making a splash. Plata Rasa. The lulling sound of a running dishwasher, whose steady maternal shushing somehow puts you completely at peace with not having circumnavigated anything solo. Do dishwashers make you feel this way? I do think they have a calming sound. Sonder, the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you, like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, and in which you might appear only once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. It's so beautiful. It's like poetry. I love these. Let me read you a few more of the lengthy ones. Austice, a wistful omen of the first sign of autumn, a subtle coolness on the shadows, a rustling of dead leaves abandoned on the sidewalk, or a long skein of geese sweeping over your head like the second hand of a clock. Etterath, the feeling of emptiness after a long and arduous process is finally complete. Having finished school, recovered from surgery, or gone home at the end of your wedding, which leaves you relieved that it's over, but missing the stress that organized your life into a mission. Midding, feeling the tranquil pleasure of being near a gathering, but not quite in it, hovering on the perimeter of a campfire, chatting outside a party while others dance inside, resting your head in the back seat of a car, listening to your friends chatting up front, feeling blissfully invisible, yet still fully included, safe in the knowledge that everyone is together and everyone is okay, with all the thrill of being there, without the burden of having to be. Lilo, a friendship that can lie dormant for years, only to pick right back up instantly, as if no time had passed since you last saw each other. Aftersome, feeling astonished to think back on the bizarre sequence of accidents that brought you to where you are today, as if you'd spent years bouncing down a plinko pegboard, passing through a million harmless decision points, any one of which might have changed everything, which makes your long and winding path feel fated from the start, yet so unlikely as to be virtually impossible. I'll read one more for you. Ringlorn. The wish that the modern world felt as epic as the one depicted in old stories and folk tales, a place of tragedy and transcendence, of oaths and omens and fates, where everyday life felt like a quest for glory, a mythic bond with an ancient past, or a battle for survival against a clear enemy, rather than an open-ended parlor game where all the rules are made up and the points don't matter. I'll leave the book here if you want to look through it, and I'll leave you to your thoughts and your tea and the sound of rain on the window. And maybe you can come up with a word for that feeling. Good night.